Hey there guys and gals, it's Rusty from Record Mix Repeat. Today we're going to be recording some drums, putting up some microphones so we can capture cymbals, hi-hat, and snare, but we're also going to be recording at the same time a Roland TD-25 kit, the kick drum and the toms, okay? So this is like a hybrid recording. We're going to be recording both things at the same time. This is very cool. Check it out. So I wrote this song and I programmed the drums and recorded all the parts. And the drum program that I came up with was pretty good, but I wanted more feel in the tune than what I could program. And my good friend Stephen Fisher agreed to come over and play drums on the song. So we had been recording with the Roland TD-25 kit for a while. We started incorporating acoustic cymbals and hi-hat with the pads of the kit. And on this particular song, Steve has suggested that we incorporate an acoustic snare because there was a lot of articulation in the snare. And he felt that that would be better for the song, and I agreed. So this is what we're doing here. We're recording the snare, the cymbals, the hat, and then we're recording the Roland TD-25 pads that are triggering Superior Drummer 3. All right, to capture the sound of the snare and the cymbals, I use two large diaphragm microphones. They're Rode NT2 microphones. They're not very expensive microphones, but they do sound good, and I put them on a cardioid pattern and engaged the pad, and they did a really good job. For miking the hi-hat, I used an AKG 451 small condenser microphone with a cardioid capsule. I didn't use any pad on it because hi-hats aren't typically that loud, and I used a roll-off on the microphone of 150 hertz. I mic'd the top of the snare with an SM57, and I'm sure everybody knows what they look like, so we'll just skip that part of the video. The two Rode NT2 overhead microphones were going into two API 512C mic preamps. Those preamps were supplying the 48 volts for the mics, and I also had a pad engaged on the mic preamps because there was a heck of a lot of amplitude. So I had a pad on the mic and a pad on the mic pre's. How about that? Those two API 512Cs were each feeding a distressor compressor limiter, which is a really great piece of gear. They had a fairly slow attack time and a fairly fast release time. I was on a 4-to-1 ratio. And I got a peak reduction of around -10 at the max. But great job. They really smoothed out that snare and made the cymbals really smooth. Happy I used it. The mic pre's I used for the snare and the hi-hat are part of an Audient ASP-008, which is an 8 mic pre unit, single rack space unit. Has an ADAT output that goes into my Apollo X8. Really nothing special here, just supplied 48 volts for the hi-hat mic and got a level on both mics, and that was about it. So I got the headphone blend put together where he was happy and I was happy with my headphone blend. We got all the signals routed, and he got comfortable playing the song, and we did a take or two. All right, let me take a listen to what I'm recording and figure out what I got to change.
I want to hear
okay?
one piece of that.
So we listened to a little bit of what we'd done, and we're reacting to what we're hearing, and basically we got into a discussion about whether or not the snare was too ringy. The ringy stuff, I don't know that it's problematic, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's interesting.
If we dampen it a little bit, I mean, right now it's free and open, correct?
Yeah.
You could dampen it a little bit maybe, and let's see how that works.
Yeah.
But I like the concept of it ringing.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be just some dry snare.
Yeah.
So after damping the snare just a little bit and a few more takes, Stephen really was locking into it. I mean, it sounds like you're feeling really comfortable now. So I was
getting there.
It's great, man. All right, here you go. You ready?
Keep them going.
There we go. Rolling. So each take that Stephen performed, I was able to multi-track record to a new layer in the DAW that I use, which is Studio One, by simply clicking right here on this tab that says Add Layer. This enables me to comp together from different layers a finished comp track. You nailed it on the end there. That was the best take so far, my friend. That right there. The snare really it's so neat that it's all very organic sounding, and that's what I'm digging about it, So it's
cool.
It's so very cool that way. All right, here it is. The next day, I'm opening up this session. see what we did. Always good to get away from it and come back. I'm going to see what damage was incurred or not incurred. So I'll kill the click. Don't want to hear that. And just hit play and see how out of control this sounds. Okay, well, just hearing it right out of the chute, it doesn't sound horrible. So I'm going to start playing with it, and I'll get back to you after I've played with it, and we'll see what I've done. So I tweaked the drum tracks to get them to lay into the track to see what I had and see how well they worked, and I think I've gotten it in pretty good shape here. Here in Studio One are the different tracks. We have an instrument track, which is Superior Drummer. The only instruments I triggered from the drum pads that the drummer was hitting was the kick and the toms. So that's all that we triggered, and here you can see the toms and the kick. So that's the MIDI data we recorded from the drummer. Then I recorded a snare, a hi-hat, and an overhead left and an overhead right. These are audio tracks. These are microphones, acoustic tracks. So I split out outputs from Superior Drummer, and those outputs are kick, toms compressor output, ambience track. So these are the 4 outputs that I split out from Superior Drummer to get a little bit of control. And then these right here are our 4 tracks: the snare, the hi-hat, the overhead left, and the overhead right of the actual drums he was playing, the snare and the cymbals and the hi-hat. So, kick drum. So I've got the ambience. It has both toms and kick. Then the toms coming out of Superior Drummer. The compressor has a little bit of brightness to them. I liked it, so I kept it. Those 4 elements. So then the overhead tracks. Those mics are picking up the snare. It's really a cool thing. And then we got the tight snare. Add that in, and of course there's a hi-hat mic. Put them all together. All right, I didn't have to do much processing on the kick. I put a little bit of compression on it, and I put a little bit of EQ on it. Basically, the EQ is pretty simple, not much, not big moves. Took out a little bit of muddiness, took out a little bit of low end actually, and put a little bit of point on that kick, and the compression I just picked up a default thing called Kick Fattener here, and it worked well from UAD. Didn't put any EQ or compression on these outputs here because they sounded good to me. The snare, close mic, put a little bit of EQ on that, and then behind that I put some compression. Okay, it sounded better with the compressor on the rear side of the EQ to my ear. And then on the overheads, just a little bit of high end, 10K. So all together. So laying those into the track starts off like this. Okay, so there you go. That's what I ended up with. The cool thing here is we did multiple takes, all right? As you can see, if I open this up, you'll see all the different takes. What we're listening to here is take 6. I thought it was the best one to start working with, but I've got a total of 9 takes, and whichever take that I use for the main take, if there's any areas of that take that I think aren't working, I can look at these other takes, see if I can drag in, let's just say hypothetically, this area here, he's loose, and I want to bring that in. I can bring that up into the track, and looking for something that you actually... And you probably won't even hear it. Of course, it just depends on how I comp it together, but here's that. So those two went together well. That didn't go together well. Obviously, I'd have to amend that a little bit. But anyway, so I'll comp together a take out of these multiple takes, and I'm not going to go crazy comping together a bunch of stuff because that's just going to make the track sound wrong. There's going to be one take that's going to be a strong take. He's a good drummer. And, you know, if I have to pull from 1 or 2 spots, 3 spots, you know, from other takes, I'll do that. But there you go. Okay, so that's recording a Roland TD-25 kit along with some cymbals and an acoustic snare. This worked out well for me because my room's not that big, and a big kit in here would be way too much energy. Please subscribe if you like what you're seeing, because I'm always adding more content for the home studio enthusiast. This is Rusty with Record, Mix, Repeat.